Hi guys, decided to make another quick video about my new reef. Um, I wanted to just talk a little bit about cleanup crew, and cleanup crew is always talked about a lot in reefing. So many people always recommend a certain amount of snails and hermit crabs per gallon. I think it's like, I don't know, 5 per gallon or something like that. Everyone always has some kind of rule of thumb that they use for their tank. And I've found over the years that less has always been more. A lot of people like to get a bunch of crabs and a bunch of snails, and they think they need a huge cleanup crew. And what happens is they don't eat enough and they end up dying, and then they end up causing a lot more problems than they're solving because they're dying under some rock somewhere you can't get them out, and they end up decaying and adding more nutrients to the tank. So what I've always done with my reefs is just have a handful, just a couple, and make sure they're eating enough, and kind of going from there. So right now I have 4 hermit crabs, which you can see them, all 4 of them here in the frame. I've had these same 4 hermit crabs for about 2 years now. There was actually a 5th. You could see this shell right there. That one's actually been dead for about a year. So these guys, they last a long time, and I really just try to feed the fish as little as possible, usually once a day, sometimes twice a day, but I'll watch them and make sure they're eating every bit of it. I usually don't try to waste a bunch of food, just pour a whole bunch of food in there and hope that they eat it. I'll watch them and make sure they're eating everything, and if there's a couple pellets going to waste, that's fine, because these hermit crabs usually get them, and have a couple snails as well. But I try not to put a whole bunch of excess nutrients in there, because I don't want it up going into the filter. So I do have 3 different kinds of pellet foods that I feed, and also mysis shrimp. And I'll usually kind of rotate everything out every few days. I'll change up the food. The hermit crabs, they don't really care. They'll eat everything, and they're really fast. And since I only have a few in here, and in the old reef as well, they just go right to the food. They find it really quickly and always gets eaten, and nothing really goes to waste. So there's a lot less nutrients in the tank, a lot less crabs and snails dying for no reason, going hungry all the time. So in this tank, I may get one more turbo snail, but as far as the cleanup crew goes, I'm going to stick with what I have until things change. I know that I do plan on getting a couple more fish in here, and I'll be feeding a little bit more, and so therefore there may be a little bit more waste, and I'll just have to see how things go. Maybe get one more hermit crab, definitely another turbo snail. But other than that, I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. I just don't want a whole bunch of small creatures in the sand bed dying off because they're starving. So I'd rather have, just a handful of well-fed cleanup crew, and just sticking with that, along with routine maintenance. But that's basically it for this reef. You can see I have one snail on top of the rock here, and then I have a big old turbo over here. And they've just been going across the new rocks for the last few days, doing their thing, and there's a little bit of algae growth starting. They're going to have quite a bit to eat, and I'll probably get a new algae eating fish. I've had a couple different types in the past, so I'm still trying to think of what I want to get for this reef. Probably a lawnmower blenny, just because they're really cool fish, and they kind of perch up all over the rock and kind of look over everything, and they kind of have a cool attitude. So I was thinking about getting another one of those. They're just neat little fish, and they do a pretty good job. And that'll probably be the next fish that I get. And they're kind of utilitarian fish. They'll help keep the tank clean, and they'll also, look cool and add a little a little bit more color and difference in the tank. And probably the fish after that will be another useful fish that'll either eat algae or he'll eat pods. I do have quite a bit of copepods building up in the refugium from the last setup that I had, and their populations will bounce back pretty quick. So we'll get like a wrasse in here, some other fish that might like snacking on them as well as these other foods that I have. But that's all I really had to say about the cleanup crew. Just keep it simple and add more as needed. You could always add more. It's much easier to do that than deal with an abundance of nutrients in the tank from a dead cleanup crew. But if you guys enjoyed this video, give me a like. I appreciate it. Thank you.